Now, as you can see right here, a lot of us are going through and we're clearing out our summer garden beds and getting ready for the fall beds or the fall growing season. At least here in Texas, I do have a fall growing season. You can technically count this as like 3 seasons that we have the opportunity to grow in. Most places at least have 2. Some places, at least further north, have 1. But even if you are further north, these 3 tips are going to still help you ensuring bumper crops in the spring. These 3 tips that we're going to go over today are going to be 3 things that you do in the fall to ensure good harvests in the spring. And little heads up, if you guys do live in colder climates where you get like snowfall and snowpack every year, where it stays like mostly through the winter, then you guys actually have a unique opportunity that the rest of us don't. You guys, we'll go into that in a minute. Now, keep in mind, y'all, I just launched a permaculture design course on Patreon. If you would like the education of permaculture, if you'd like to understand and get a permaculture education to a better extent than what I'm just providing here on YouTube, then check out the Patreon. And if you want to become a permaculture consultant or a teacher or anything like that in the future, there is a specific section just for you on Patreon. But you can get in as little for as little as $5 a month. That's cheaper than 1 Starbucks coffee if you're still going to that place. It's cheaper than 1 Starbucks coffee per month, and you have access to all of the information. Also, if you need a permaculture consultation where I come out to your property and give you a game, basically a game plan, like a plan of attack, an order of operations, hit up the email down below and I'll show you what to do, where to do it, and when to do it. And you'll also have access to me afterwards for any questions that you might have. And if you would like a soil biology test, so if you'd like to send in your soil right now and know what you need to do to it to prepare for spring, hit up the email down below. It's the same one for the consultation. That being said, let's get on with the video. I also forgot to tell you guys that I'll be teaching you how to raise your animals for free at this fall's Midwest Preparedness Conference. It's a free, completely free event. All you have to do is just show up, and there's camping on site. Most of us will be camping, but I'll be teaching you from September 23rd through the 28th. I believe I'll be teaching that 27th. Yeah, come check it out. It's linked down below in the description box. So tip number 1, as you can see, I'm clearing out my garden beds right now. This bed was tomatoes. The one behind me was like peppers and watermelons and spinach. And then the one on the other end, it was something. I can't remember what it was. I cleared that one out a while ago and tried to plant sweet potatoes, but the neighbor's rabbits ate my sweet potatoes. They basically had some pet rabbits that they didn't want anymore, so they let them loose, and they've been breeding like crazy and wreaking havoc in the neighborhood. But as you can see, I'm clearing out my tomato bed right now. We've pretty much hit the max production we're gonna hit on this, and it's time to get ready for the fall plantings and everything. So I'm clearing out the tomato stakes as well as the tomato plants themselves. Now, despite whatever you're growing, no matter what you're growing, as long as it's not a root crop that you dig up and harvest, whenever you're cutting your vegetation out, make sure you're not pulling it up by the root, right? Pulling it up by the root is going to disturb that soil, and you want to disturb the soil as least as possible, because the organisms worked hard in creating a good crumb structure, creating those aggregates within your soil, which allows for a lot of oxygen respiration to occur. It also allows for water to thoroughly soak into the beds. It allows the roots to grow pretty well as well. But you want to cut your vegetation off at the base. Try not, if you can all help it, try not to pull them up out of your garden bed because of the reasons I just said. Also, as they decompose, they're going to be feeding your organisms at the same time. So you're gonna have some long-term fungal food, for example, in your garden bed as you go through winter, and you're gonna have some pretty good results when it, oh, sorry, I wasn't even in camera. And you're gonna have some pretty good results when it comes to spring. Now, as you can see, all of the vegetation that I'm pulling up, or pulling out, not necessarily up. Hold on, this tomato stake is, there we go. All of the vegetation that I'm pulling out of the garden, I'm putting off over here to the side, right? And this is gonna come in handy here in a minute, but always remember your soil hates being bare. So avoid bare conditions as long as possible. And I understand, like, sometimes, you know, you're in that in-between stage where you're like, you cleared your beds, right? And now you're waiting for the next thing to pop up and stuff. Like, that's unavoidable. I understand that completely. But if at all possible, try to keep your bed covered as much as possible. If you look out in nature, you notice nature doesn't like to be bare. And if nature decides what it's going to be covered with, 9 times out of 10, it's going to be a unfavorable plant, something that you don't necessarily like dealing with, like weeds. Yeah, so you have the option to pick what the earth is going to be covered with. Pick something favorable if you have the opportunity. And now you can see, if I were to just put these vines and everything on the bed, that's going to be a mess. So there's a few things I'm going to do to this vegetation before applying it to the garden. So stick around for that. Alrighty, so now I'm going to run over everything with a mower. I'm going to start off on the highest setting, and then I'm going to work my way down. And what this is going to do is chop up everything really, really fine. I'm not too concerned with like weed seeds or anything like that, because whatever I plant is going to outcompete the weed seeds that have been abused and damaged and stuff like that. So I'm going to run over everything with a mower, with a bagger, and then I'm going to keep stepping it down until I get a really nice fine product, and then I'm going to apply it to the surface of this bed right here. What that's going to do is help, it's going to be a mulch. It's going to help retain moisture. It's going to help feed the organisms long term over the winter and everything. It's also going to provide a little bit more of a habitat for your organisms, so they don't have to sink that deep into the soil whenever they go over the winter dormant season. So remember, you got to keep your soils covered. You can either keep it covered with living things, or you can keep it covered with mulch, like a variety of mulch. Now, just so happens, like, you can use whatever mulch you want to, but this stuff is free. It was grown in this bed, and I have it readily available. If you don't have a mower with a bagger, you can always just chop this stuff up with a machete. Just go crazy with it. If you have like older kids, maybe, I don't know, you pick the edge, you're their parent, but have your kids do it. It's always fun as a kid to whack things with the machete. So have them do it, have them go crazy, give them 2 machetes so they can go crazy like this. I don't know, I have distinct memories of being a kid using machetes. I loved it. I still love knives to this day. So yeah, use machetes if you don't have a mower, or use whatever you want to if you don't have a mower. A wood chipper would even be better. That big hopper at the top, you can dump this stuff into that hopper and get a really nice fine product too. You definitely want sharp mower blades. This one is kind of underpowered, so it's going to be a bit of a hassle for me. But if you have like a riding mower or whatever it may be, a little bit more powerful mower, then you're probably going to have better results. You could also just mow everything up without the bagger, mow everything up, rake it up, and then apply it to your soils if you wanted to go that route. So that being said, let's go ahead and start mowing. Let me back out over here. Now, after just that first pass on the high setting, we already got a decent amount. It didn't chop up that much just on that high setting, but we already got some of this green vegetation right here. I'll go ahead and dump it out onto the bed. And then I'm gonna drop my setting down just 1 notch. Now, you might not have to take these precautions if you have a more powerful mower. I don't, so I do. Now, after you've added all that organic material into your beds, make sure you kind of spread it out, rake it out and stuff like that. It's okay if you don't have enough to entirely cover your beds, but returning that fertility to the ground is going to help quite a bit in feeding those organisms, along with those roots that you left in the ground, cutting the plants off at the base. If you live in a cold environment where you get a bunch of snow, like you get snowpack, you should be putting down up to 3 feet of organic matter in your garden beds before that snow hits. The reason for that is that the snowpack is providing the absolute perfect conditions for decomposition. It provides a steady, slow drip of water. It's also keeping a stable habitat, so it's like a very stable temperature in the underneath the snow and everything. And believe it or not, the fastest decomposition records, or the fastest decomposition rates, have been recorded underneath snowpack. So that's an opportunity, especially those of you that can't make compost. That's an opportunity for you to do a lot of composting in place. People automatically assume like rainforests and stuff like that are the fastest decomposition rates, and that turns out to not be the case. You may have been upset about the snow you get every winter, but now you have a reason to like it. Is that, you know, there's a whole lot of hands-off composting you can get done just by putting down up to 3 feet of organic matter. Now, the reason 3 feet is that anything above 3 feet is going to potentially go anaerobic between that mulch layer and the soil underneath. So, give or take about 3 feet is where is like the sweet spot. And now the last step is to add compost extract to the beds. See, the reason you want to do it before spring hits is that you give time for the organisms to actually colonize your soil, reproduce and replicate, and like fully inoculate your soils before you're ready to start growing and everything. Now, I understand that not everybody can make compost, and I've made videos in the past saying that there's absolutely no replacement for compost. But this right here, this product right here from Soil Saviors, I'll leave it linked down below. I don't make any money from it, so it's like an honest sponsorship right here. Well, actually, it's not even a sponsorship. This is just a product that really, really works. They're using some very hard to find bacteria that survive in very extreme conditions, and you're inoculating your soils for this. Now, this doesn't have everything you need in your soil, but what it does do is prepare the environment for those other things to naturally inoculate your soils. You can either farm the organisms, which is what you're doing in compost, or you can provide the conditions for those organisms to naturally occur. That takes a little bit longer, but this is a pretty fast process, the Soil Saviors process. What I do is I make compost extract. Oh, also keep in mind that stuff right there is part of what my parents used to remediate the contaminated soils in North Carolina after Hurricane Helene. This stuff really works. They were able to take like very, very bad, toxic, unhealthy soil and convert it into very, very healthy soil, better than it was before the disaster zone, in just a matter of a couple of months, which is insane. So we can actually go and remediate these Superfund sites fairly easily. But that being said, what I do is a compost extract plus an addition of that Soil Saviors product in here, and then I take a watering can and I just apply it to the surface of the beds. Now, this is a little bit of best of both worlds. I'm getting those very, very extreme bacterias from the Soil Saviors product, in addition to the rest of the soil ecosystem from the compost extract. So this is like a supercharged compost tea, you could say. This is literally better than anything else you can buy on the market. Believe me, we've tested them, we've tried, we've looked at them under microscopes. If you want me to look at your soil under a microscope, do a soil biology test, or you can also do an on-site consultation, which includes a soil biology test at the same time. But this stuff is insane. This stuff works extremely well, and it's the only stuff that really even works on the market as a permanent fix. Keep in mind, this is a permanent fix. You don't, as long as you don't create compaction or anaerobic conditions, all of what I'm showing you here is a permanent fix to crappy soils. Just make sure you don't do those two things. So what creates compaction? Tilling, or keeping animals stand still in one spot for too long, like overgrazing. What creates anaerobic conditions? Again, tilling, but also the use of herbicides, pesticides, fungicides, pest killer, also store-bought fertilizer. Those are all salts. Those create anaerobic conditions within your soils, and that's what we want to avoid. Now, that box that I just showed you can inoculate up to 5 acres if you wanted to. But as long as you keep the good conditions, this is not something you have to repeat the process of. Once it's good to go. And after I get done applying all of this stuff to the soil, I'm going to water everything in very, very well so those organisms can be sunk down deeper into the soils and make sure they're, making a habitat not just on the surface that fluctuates throughout the day, but also deeper down where it's a little bit more resilient. And also, after I'm done with this, I'm going to spray everything down with some water, and then everything I rinse out, I'm going to put directly in the beds. Now, this next step is a bit of a, got dust in my face. This next step is a bit of a bonus tip. It's not something you have to do, but y'all, it helps out quite a bit, and that is broad forking. I would highly recommend broad forking your beds, and so that way your organisms can get down deeper, and as well as your roots. There's no lower limits to how deep your roots can go. The only limit, especially on perennial species, the only limit is your first compaction layer. So if you can get down there, this is a way of tilling without creating compaction. And it also loosens up that subsoil as well. But if you can get a broad fork, then your annuals and your perennials can shoot down deeper roots, allowing them to be a lot more resilient, especially if you live in a place like Texas and you need your roots to go down deep so they can harvest that below the surface water and everything, or just escape the hot temperatures. But this, along with a yeoman's plow, are the only two ways to till with mechanical means without creating compaction below. It also introduces oxygen down lower into the soils as well. So, like we were concerned earlier about creating compaction and anaerobic conditions, if I'm able to introduce oxygen deeper into the soil, then I'm less likely to have anaerobic conditions down deep into the soil, and I can extend how aerobic my soil is further down. And you'll notice after I broad fork something, I'm cautious about stepping on it afterwards, because that's just going to do the opposite of what I just did with the broad fork. It's going to recompact the soil a little bit. And now you are ready to plant. Also keep in mind, Midwest Preparedness Conference, that's going to be September 23rd through the 28th. I will be going there and teaching how to feed your animals for free. Can't wait to see you guys there. But other than that, thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time, we'll see you.